So before containerizing our application, I saw it best to be able to document our API, which I believe is very, very important. So to document our API, we have something called the Django drf-spectacular. So this is what we are going to be using, and we are going to install it. So let's just get into it because it's usually important to document your API. So let me just stop the server. Then using pipenv, I'm going to install drf-spectacular. And I'm going to install this specific version. Yeah, so after its installation, let's go to the settings.py file, and maybe we can add it here. And we can save, and then we are going to make additional settings. So in this case, I'm going to add some settings somewhere. Let me just start them at the bottom. So we can give it a title for our that is going to appear for our documentation. So in this case, I can call it health facilities, and then I can also add something else like a description. So the description, for the description, you can give it maybe something. We can call it a simple API for health facilities. So you, of course, you are at liberty to give whichever description you prefer. So you can also maybe specify a version, and I believe there are many other things that you can specify. So I'll just add those. This is just for the demonstration purposes. So I'm going to save this, and then the other step will be now going into the URLs. And in this, I think I'm just going to use the main URLs folder, and I'm going to import these three. So we have the Spectacular API view, Redoc view, and Swagger view. So Redoc and Swagger are normally used for documentation, and we're also going to be using them here in our case. So since we added the path to our facilities URLs, we can create a URL here for our schema. So these documentations normally make use of the schema, and yeah, for this one I'll just leave it as it is. So whenever you go to this route or the URL, you're going to see it's going to download that schema, which will be in YML or the YAML format. And then I'll also add another one for the Redoc. And then finally, I'll also add another one for the Swagger UI. So let's save. I don't know why my formatting is not okay. Yeah. So that's what we have. So we have made use of these class views for the documentation. Let's see what happens when we start. Let's just run our server. And then we are going to go to that route or those URL. So for example, if we try Redoc, we have an error here. This error is expected. Let me see, there's a step that we may have forgotten. So let's go to the settings.py file. So we need to add something in our settings. and we need to register our spectacular with the Django REST framework. So to do that, we're just going to copy these settings and add them there. Let's save, and let's try and see what happens. Let's go to our browser and do a refresh. Yeah, so this is what we get for our redoc. As you can see, we have the lists. We have explanations of this CRUD app, and you can see if the return value and all that, rather the HTTP code, if it is accessible or not. So I'm also going to try and open the one for Swagger. Yeah, so I'm sure if you have worked with the API documentations, you have seen some things like this. I have a tutorial that I'm talking about GeoServer. So GeoServer API also uses Swagger UI and many other applications out there. So you can just check. You can even authorize your check authorization if you are using token-based. Basic. In this case, I've not configured any other authorization, so I'm using basic auth and also and cookie by default. So this is what we have for our API documentation. So next, let's see how we are going to containerize our application. So you can extend further. You can look at the drf-spectacular documentation, and since the code base for this app will be available on GitHub, you can see how you can extend these health facilities documentation. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the next one.